Hi, this is Zoodalore, and this is week 4 since my job application at Riot Games as a game designer for the LifePod team too. So, over its life, League has added so many systems to the game as a way of keeping it fresh. While it might have appealed to its core audience, the veterans, we can easily lose track of how the game was designed when we fell in love with it. It's time we review and update and perhaps merge or transform some of these systems to alleviate and breathe new life into the game. So, chapter 1, I'll go over my design philosophy just as a game dev. I believe it's relevant to the application, and I want to create trust with the community of what I believe are must be upheld. And if you guys want to suggest some, I'm absolutely open minded to hearing them out. These are just my thoughts on how the game should be treated to maintain it in a healthy state. That'll be chapter 1. Chapter 2, I'll go over the game modes and try to match a fantasy or mindset with them, see what their purpose is. Chapter 3, I'll get into how to fix rank specifically, that game mode. And chapter 4 will be my actual solution and implementation of it. So this video is pretty heavy already. It could have been made into another mini series like I did with the lane swap. I'm trying this one out to be extended very long to see how well it pulls, and we'll see from there. So to start off, chapter 1, Zoodalore's design balance philosophy, the purpose. So whenever I look at an idea, I want to treat and make sure that these commandments or tenets are always upheld. So 1, standard play shall be optimal play. What I mean by that is for gambits to not always happen. They should always be at a disadvantage. You lose something to gain something. And this is for ranked solo queue. Ranked 90% of games should be standard games. 10% shall be gambits. So I'm of the opinion that there should be creativity, place for creativity in the game. I recently saw a Shaco mid game in a Baus video, which I have never seen yet. I just got into high emerald. I've never seen a mid Shaco go 20 CS after 9 minutes. And it works, right? He carried the game early in that game. So, wow. There's a bunch more gambits that exist. I'm of the opinion that Commandment 3, thou shalt not stifle player creativity. Let them cook. I'll try to use existing system as much as possible and not have like the testing required to create these new explosive things, but sometimes they're necessary for the healthiness of the game. So it's just to try to reuse things that have been existed. I'm a big fan of updating some mechanics instead of like completely trashing them and redesigning them from scratch. But that again is not my final decision. That would go to the team and they would figure it out. Again, like I said, I am not a Riot employee. I'm just applying to become one and make my dream come true. Fantasy shall be maintained. This is a very important one. August Uwu, he's a game designer, champion designer mostly at Riot Games, and I feel like he's truly done a great job with that. And I believe that the same philosophy should be maintained for game design as a whole, that we should always keep the fantasies alive. Shaco should be allowed to do that strat. So because there's a player base that respond to him. So whenever we do balance change, whenever we do things, we need to have those mains be considered so that we can make sure that the game remains in a nice equilibrium. Thou shalt tailor mechanics to offer teachable moments. That's whenever it's possible. It's ideal for us to design the game in the means of offering teachable moments. So an example of this was whoever put in the turret plates. I've said this in past videos. Love you for it, Riot. Thank you so much. You taught me how to play the game. And I'll get back to this, how they've done it so well with Brawl just recently. I'm a big fan of brawlers. Yeah, you'll see a lot of videos about that. Just me playing MF and abusing the mechanics of how it was released. Systems shall reward players with compelling rewards. I feel like that is something that Riot has done very well in the past. They've shied away from just giving out gold, where it used to be that, okay, you take Drake, we'll just give you turret. Both were 300 gold, no matter. Then Dragon Soul came in. So there's a lot of things that can be made. But whenever you create a reward, try to convolute it. Don't just make it gold based. Try to make it more interesting or to have levels, right? Thou shalt not release an uncompelling system, thereby ruining its credibility with the player base. Here I'm pointing to, and I don't want to be a burden or being negative about this, but the Eternals version 1, for me, I felt that they missed the ball. I ended up buying the one with the extra blue essence because they just made it available. And that first series actually made it so that I would never buy the second series even on my OTP main. Like, it just feels uncompelling. And perhaps the second season would actually, or the second set, is actually very well done and designed. And I just lost the credibility. So it's so important for us to, when that we release a new concept, to actually make sure that it's going to work. If it's not perfect or it didn't come out to where it should have been, just don't release it. That's my perspective, but sometimes you can't do anything about it. 8, thou shalt be open-minded, listen to members across teams and community for feedback. We are better together. I'm a firm believer of that. I've spoken to that in past videos as well. Thou shalt design, then assign relevant teams, not delegate. So here I want to be that there's a saying that a good manager has the problems go up instead of delegating the problems downward. Like, if it's a lot of work but it's simple work, well, there's a team that will shine in it and deliver on that. And there's some problems that are more complicated and minute, and there's a team that'll flourish doing that kind of work. So it's just about maintaining, like, there's proper teams, but it's just, the idea is not, well, I don't want to deal with this right now, so I'll just give it to them. Or this idea is cool. Oh my God, I just put 1,000 hours on my plate for the next 6 months and it's untenable. Well, how can we deal with this? But the idea is to not have to delegate that, is to be able to assume it. I believe it's very important as a teammate to be able to do that. Thou shalt be accountable to the team and to the community. So I've recently watched a bunch of videos about game design, and it's part of the reason why not much is heard from Riot employees. It is because they are under constant threat. I feel like I am fairly strong in that I can take a lot, but there is some truth that when somebody conveys such a strong emotion, you did deliver a product that they're addicted to or that they care about. So it is important to listen to them. Players are very good at identifying that there's a problem. They're just not necessarily the best at figuring out how we can approach a solution. And it's not always tenable too. Maybe it's just the cost of doing business, and it's sad if that's the case. But it's just, be open-minded to the community. Haters will hate, but sometimes you have to be able to take it. So here I just want to add, there's a bunch of gambits. And like I said, it's a viable, albeit weaker strategy than playing the game standard when answered correctly. Riot should have a clear and concise playbook of these. So I have added the Shaco one. But just recently I saw the 500 CS Singe video that MidBeast put up. Go check out his channel. But what's happening there is you can flash at 108 into the base, or Pro Team did it with Lee Sin and Nyla, and they just did it to level 3. But the Singe actually had a 500 CS by 18 minutes because he was farming all 3 lanes. And the correct way to answer that is just 4 people go and kill the 2, and then you go back to lane. But since lane swapping is no longer a thing, like, this is taking off in China, and it's creating a new world. So that's an idea of an example. AP Jin is one that I think has been removed from the game. There's just a highlight reel. It was bad, but it was just funny to see somebody like Pianta just explode somebody in gold elo using a Jin trap. I mean, it makes you want to try it. It's funny, it's bad, but it's fun, right? And it creates emotions, and as a player receiving end and on the giving end. So I feel like we need to keep these Easter eggs in the game. They can't all be supported, and I think Brawl is a great place for this to be lived out too. So I'll get to that later on. So Ivern and Rengar duo bot. There, I recently saw a Baus video again, leaning on him quite a lot this video, but he he actually faced it and he was happy that it was part of the game and that Elo some creativity was happening. Because part of the problem right now is that the balanced strategy to just make every champion on an equal footing and to not be a skill matchup, less so, but more just like a stat check, makes it so that now Garen players are getting into Challenger, right? You're a Challenger Garen. And it sucks to be so good at the game and to just be outshined by somebody who just, his champion just works so much simpler. And that's a problem for a day. I need some challenger feedback or some people that actually experience that elo to look at my system and figure out what changes would they like to see to make it work. I'm of the community that Garen needs to exist in the game. He does meet a fantasy and new players like him, but currently the issue is that Yorick is suffering from the same problem right now. He's taking advantage of all roles at all ranks. And it's not as simple as just balancing the win rate, right? So part of that would be champion design, and I can make a video about that because that would be part of the job description, I believe. I saw that as the LifePod Team 2. Yorick would probably be a very interesting example because he's really popped off. Garen might be a simpler one, but he has a major rework coming in, and they'll see how well he does. And yeah, so I have more videos on that with mythic abilities that I did in the past, and I'm working on that spreadsheet to be able to account for builds. So that's in the works. Regardless, there's a bunch of gambits. 90% should be 90% of games should be just a standard game. So if we keep that in mind, though, 90%, I actually think that there's a problem where this is actually skewed to like 99% if you're gold or below. Like you don't want to see an Ivern Rengar bot if you're gold, because it's not something you want to be interested in. You don't play the game late enough. You're playing to be nostalgic, to remember the good old days, and in the good old days Rengar was never bought. So I'll elaborate more on this. It's going to be a doozy, a long video, so hopefully I haven't lost you yet, but let's just get into it. So here, I can probably have clipped those. One big shout out to Bent Beyond Repair. He's a league streamer that comes out with a bunch of interesting rank concepts. I'm leaning on him quite a bit for just the understanding of how the systems actually work at higher elo. I haven't experienced myself. Like I said, I'm an Emerald player. So just shout out to him. You can go check him out. His videos are very technical and more based on rank to queue. So I don't know. Check him out, definitely. See if you like it. All right, let's get into it. So Chapter 2. So Brawl. This is, to me, perhaps the best alternative game mode to have ever been conceived from a game design perspective. I love it. Whoever came up with the design, how you did it, thank you, Riot. You've done so many good things, and I just want to elaborate on it. So for me, the purpose of Brawl, okay, is to provide a safe space to try new champion builds without requiring an alternate account. For fun game mode to replace ARAM. I honestly think that this is a place it'll replace ARAM, and it's an ideal place to warm up your hands for ranked solo queue. It's an 8-minute game mode for right now as it stands. Like I've been winning games at 8 and 8.5 because people feed so much. I feel like once the player base learns how the game's actually meant to be played and just not brawl as much, the higher elo, the games might actually go on for 15 minutes, because right now there's like 100 points being shaved off just because of the amount of kills. I'm actually a big fan of the game duration right now. I believe that although it is not by design that they envisioned this, I think it's actually accurate and correct for it to be this way, and this should be reinforced. And I'll go into a bit why. But the target audience is for the new generation of players and adrenaline junkies and legacy players looking to warm up, like I just said, or test new builds and ideas concept, right? Because if you're going to test something in a practice school and to get a group of 5 to be able to test something is so much harder than to just do it against a live audience and to just try anything. Like API Aurelia, no flame here, could work. could be tried out, and I wouldn't complain if I'm playing Brawl. I'd be happy for an AP Aurelia to exist. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, and that's the beauty of this game mode. If it's kept around like 8 to 10 minutes, okay, so pros, it's a 10 minutes. It offers teachable moments. So you can push the wave into turret, rotate to jungle camps, base, reset, and go again. So the jungle camps are broken in the current release. They give 450 gold if you solo one, 300 gold for the wolves. Okay, they give you the mana buff. You can get it about after you do your, if you're full health with one item, you can basically just do it by yourself. Nobody contests it. If the enemy team's contested, they can steal it from you because you'll be low, you'll be almost dead. It is so well done, but they're really teaching you that you need to go get the jungle camps. It's talking to Baron, to Drakes, to Grubs. Like, you surely should contest these objectives. They give so much gold and are so worth it. Okay. To me, it also provides Brawl a first time popping off. So the OG old god Dota players that moved to League when League was really starting to pop off, the first game they played, I had a friend of mine who went like 36 kills on Udyr, and that was his first game ever played League of Legends. And that, I'll show, like, I've got constant footage of me getting pentakills whenever, and if I'm getting matched against people that are fairly low elo, but there's a game that I was placed against Diamond. So I mean, it's all over the place right now. It's part of the problem. That's a con here, actually. It needs to be MMR based to an extent, because right now it's just whoever's available in queue. That can change. It'll make it better. But again, if you're smurfing, this is the whole point. This is fine. Okay. Fixes the ARAM issue, past champ select skewing based on who you've purchased. So it used to be that you couldn't get a champion if you hadn't purchased it. I believe they walked from that and they've made it so that you can roll it. But one thing that can't be done is if somebody rolls a champ that you don't own and they re-roll it and you can't click it, it's grayed out. And it feels so unsatisfying, especially like if I'm playing on an alt account that I haven't purchased Silas. And you know what? This is a silver account. I want to try Silas this game. I'm not too happy with the champion I have right now, but I can't click it because I haven't bought the LP. I feel like this is a great time to, maybe you don't roll it, but you can actually select it when it's grayed out. So in this game mode, okay, so back to ARAM. It created a problem where people just wouldn't interact and buy champions because they don't want to dilute the pool so that they could get a champion that they don't like. But in this game mode in Brawl, you actually just pick your champion before going to the screen, and that is so well done. Because it allows you to play whoever you want to feel, to test out new strats, and you are incentivized to buy the new champions to try them out. Because you can't try them out if you haven't bought it. So now you want to buy it to try it, and you just try one game, right? It's an 8 to 10 minute game, and if you don't like it, you just move on, and you can visit back again. You're not disappointed of having spent that money, because it's not that much. And that's what I was getting at. It has the potential to render victory screen pointless. What I mean by that is that the game mode can actually just be all about fun. And I'll talk about the future opportunities here, but I really don't want you guys to push more than 10 to 15 minutes, plus you got to pop off. But right now, my 8-minute, when everybody feeds like that, it's a bit too short. So here's what I wanted to do. My improvements for Brawl is to add periods, quarters, rounds. Okay, so it's similar to any other sport. But round 2 would be 100 points. Everybody gets 100. It's a reset. Everybody gets 100,000 gold. And you unlock the 6-item fantasy for this game mode. So now, who cares? Who well you farmed, you got the jungle camps, you broke the game. You guys get 1 point for winning that round. Second round goes. There's 100 points now. Everybody has 100,000 gold. You can buy your full build, and then you just go. If the enemy team now wins that round, and now it's 1-1, you go to sudden death, which is a 50-point round, and it's Earth rules, 80% cooldown reduction, whatever the works. And that way, I feel like you have an emotion where it's a roller coaster. And if you win and you win, then the better team won, and you're happy you went 2-0, and you're like, oh man, that didn't work out. But at least it gives you, like, okay, fine, I've lost round 1, but I still have a shot, like, because I can still do a double elimination winners bracket and come back up and win. There's an opportunity there. So it's just to make really close games feel that I'm really on the edge of my seat. They really did a great job with it. But I feel like the 100,000 gold, and this is where you live the 6-item fantasy, Brawl is where it's at. I really honestly believe that this game mode should be made permanent. It's the best of every world. Arena will have fall off of players. This one I feel like will replace ARAM as a game mode, as the go-to for just player base. I really think it can get new players in. It competes. It's like playing chess. You play a blitz game, or you'll solve a puzzle instead of playing an actual drawn-out game, because that takes too long. And this is just a perfect setup for that. It's very new player friendly. I've played it with my bronze and iron friends, and I've played it at a higher elo, and it's very fun there too. Jungle camps, like I said, are broken, and you can just laugh at the strat I'm doing. There's a lot of cool games, but I've been rocking like a 90% win rate so far. So that's that. So future opportunities, other than those 2 periods and rounds of sudden death there, I feel like that would be so much more like, it just hits the nail on the coffin of just adrenaline and junkie. Well, give me round 2 and give me round 3. Just give me more of this. But you've already spent 8 minutes. I'm here. Just give me 6 items. Like, it didn't go too well. Just give me the 6 items. We reset. We go for another round. And if if that didn't work, well, give me Earth, right, and rules, and then we just go again. I really like this idea. I thought about maybe like making the minions that went to portals come back to be like an akin to like that Heimerdinger bug that used to be in the very early days. And those who don't know, I'll try to clip it. But yeah, the clip will speak for itself. But the idea to have 250 minions come out of your turret and just to see them brawl, but it's untenable. You can't. Basically, champions become irrelevant at that point, or champions like MF, which is already very, very strong at the moment, and in the game mode, her ult would just decimate the creeps, and then you would just win with that. So it doesn't work. But I'm open to these ideas, right? Like, this is just a vision of how I see it and what I've come up with. But absolutely, community should bring it on. We need to do the testing, but I feel like this would be so great. Actually, if you find that people just want to play safe, make kills take off 10, because you want to aim for a shorter time, but try to fit in 3 periods. You don't want this to be a 2.5 hour endeavor every night, right? It's not a hockey game. It's not a football game. It's not any of that. So just try to do this, and I think that game mode can really outshine and replace ARAM. But again, I want to still support ARAM, and I'll get to that. So one of the things though key is I want you to avoid balancing like ARAM. This game mode is never meant to be like all those rules and the champion adjustments and extra damage dealt, damage taken, and whatever. None of that should exist. If we happen to see a misfortune every game, well, then you see a misfortune every game, and it's not the end of the world. And guess what? You'll maybe have a Silas pick to be able to punish that. Maybe you'll have another pick that goes well, right? Samira and Yasuo's and whatever. But guess what? People love playing Yasuo. Let them play. I'm of the opinion that you could even let one for all game mode come into the existence here. Because if you make it on a team that you can pick 2 MFs as a group of 5 queuing for Brawl, well, or 5 MFs, right? Am I against that? I mean, it's kind of fun. Maybe you keep it just for Saturdays, right? You're a special event like Clash tournaments and whatnot, and it's just an event that happens on. But the Brawl, that one I'm okay with. But it's such a great opportunity to be able to bring what was so good about those other game modes and just make them work into Brawl, and you absolutely could. So avoid a ranked ladder. That's the second one about Brawl. It does need to maintain a bit of MMR just for the game to be competitive and whatnot, but you have to avoid it being ranked. It's never meant to be that. It's more about just playing out the fantasy of like 6 items, trying out new builds and just trying these cool strats and whatever, and just seeing what happens. It is such a great place to try and to learn mechanics in a team fighting environment, a lot more so than like Arena, which teaches you how to deal with like a Darius running at you with Ghost. How are you meant to defend that? That was a great teachable moment in Arena. Like, you learn as an ADC how to peel. Like, as MF, I learned that, and if you haven't realized, yes, I am a MF one trick, or mostly a one trick. But the idea is you need to ult in their face, and it's just to play chicken with them, and whenever they stop, and you that's what'll decide who wins. Because if you try to run away, they'll get on you, and then they'll 100 to 0 you every time. So you have to fight. So where Arena brought us some very interesting teachable moments, I feel like Brawl is doing the same, and there's really an opportunity to have this cool and compelling interaction. That if you're not don't have the brain to play an actual ranked game, we'll just queue in a few brawls and just call it a day there. And it's a great game mode for new players, for old players. You don't feel punished if you lose like 8 to 10 minutes of your life trying out this new thing because you still got the 6 items and try to win the fight. Like that enough was satisfying, right? You didn't need to win. The victory screen's always nice, but you still had fun. Um, I'm not sure if they need to buff the jungle camps or not. I feel like people are going to come around and know that it is OP. Just take the jungle camps or contest every single one of them. They are so strong. Next game mode, ARAM. So what was originally conceived by the player base as a custom game mode quickly became a fan favorite. Riot decided to officially support it. Here you'll learn about multiple champions in a safe environment for fun. This is deprecated due to Brawl, right? And warm up your hands for ranked, which again I believe is deprecated to Brawl now. So I think that the correct transition for ARAMs is to become ranked, because Brawl is outshining it in the above domains. Similar to Flex Queue, whereby an Iron can queue with Emerald and friends. Like I do this every Sunday, Sunday with a different group. I never played Flex in my life, and I was placed at Emerald 1. Iron 1. And I play with they were Diamond in Flex Queue, and I could play with them. So it already is ranked right now. There is a hidden MMR for ARAMs. And I feel like just making it more upfront and in your face that you have a rank for it would make it compelling. You're trying to showcase how good you are at champion diversity. So where normal solo queue might show you how good you are with a single champion and one trick, here you could prove how good you are at just playing a game and just being that versatile. It is a different skill, but it is a very worthwhile and compelling skill, and it might have people that truly enjoy it. The only reason that this can become that is because Brawl is replacing the go-to game mode for just action-packed, quick, go. This is a little bit slower, but a lot of people like that League is slower for different game modes. So here you get to pick, like you can, so well done. So I think ARAM needs to become ranked for that reason. It's that to meet the fantasy, now you have flex mastery of champion diversity and to grind rank. Like that's like the solo queue of champion diversity is what you're flexing if you're challenger ARAM player. That means that you can actually be that diverse. So target audience, you'll have legacy players and competitive players alike. Like it'll be normal for new brawlers that try the game to actually move to ARAM to try to learn it, because solo queue is a whole other beast that was made for, it's what originally got us into the game, but it is not user friendly right now for as a new player. You really need to be taught or coached into trying out new things and learning it. There's way too much systems happening, and the systems were there to keep the game fresh for us veteran players, but it became so massive, and we were just taking a little bit every time, so it's not that bad. But for a new player, it's untenable. So I feel like the Brawl into ARAM would be the normal progression, and what solo queue and swift play allows you to do is the time sync. So for swift play, the purpose is to offer the possibility for parents to quickly queue for an accelerated game that doesn't last 30-minute max, and provide account levelers a means of starting ranked at plat elo, because smurfing and duo queue abuse. So for those who don't know, I got this from my research, but when you play swift play on a new account, you are essentially playing getting a hidden MMR, right? You're setting it up. So as you play more, and if you duo with a friend and you actually climb to level 30, but you actually climb to plat, when you start your placement matches, it'll actually start your placement matches there instead of just somebody who leveled an account with using a co-op versus AI, and they'll be placed in like bronze or silver 4. Whereas if you duoed and you actually played solo queue or swift play, you'll have a much higher starting ranked. So it keeps that available for people that level the account, because that's a revenue stream for, I think, Riot as well. I'm not sure, but we can keep that alive. And for the new players, they can just use the co-op versus AI, and we'll get that into ranked. That's the last part of this discussion. But the target audience for this is legacy casual players. It's people, they may have the fantasy to reminisce and the nostalgia of what the game used to be and how good they used to be at the game, while maintaining a work-life balance. Like, that's the purpose of Swift Play. So now ranked solo queue. The purpose is it's the most prestigious of all ranked to truly show that you've mastered the game in all its system. We target 15 to 40 minutes. I want to flex how much better I am than the player base. Like, the Challenger League does mean the thing. It gives you enormous amounts of credibility. Flex OTP, best in the world. That's another viable fantasy to show that you are the best player in the world at that champion. Is an insane achievement. Well done to the people that have done it. It's an avenue to get scouted into the pro scene. But here I think, that ARAM Challenger queue might actually make sense too. Like, it could be both. Like, you need to understand the games, but somebody that just excels in the ARAM solo rank, he can be taught the basics of this, of the game mode on Summoner's Rift, and maybe do very well. So it's also a means to be noticed, and it's an unlimited time sink. So you can play League for 10 years, for 20, 30 years, and it's the same thing, but you can keep playing against new champs, new things. You can sink so much time learning, and you have to be the best, because people have spent that amount of time to get good and to min-max. So that's the type of player that should be playing ranked solo queue. It's to grind and flex their rank. So grind LP and flex their rank. Now, conclusion for this little section here, this chapter. While it's possible that the ranked player base will diminish because they are opting into these other game modes as described above, it's very possible that the game will flourish by catering to the masses. So we'll be having more active players actually playing League, while having a rank amount that actually gets lowered. Ranked will get longer queue times. And that comes with the game mode, and it's a necessary evil that we opt into to maintain credibility to the ranking system. So queue times might go up with this kind of logic, but I think it's the correct way to look at the game. You have a game mode designed for every player base you're trying to hit and market. It's a logical progression to go from one to the other. If you are brawling, you know that you have to push the wave, take the jungle camps, base, reset, and go. Deny the wave to go into your portal, right? You have to last hit. Like, these are all core mechanics that you're being blitzed into learning so quickly, but it's offering you the teachable moment. Another thing that it also offers is the tempo that you should be playing the game at, right? They say lull states and you're just doing around dilly-dallying, but people in higher elo, if you really want to climb, they might have ingrained it by now, but like, an opportunity to land an auto and not lose a creep on a champion, that is a eureka moment. Like, that is an advantage that they've seen, whereas the lower elos will never even look to trade there, or they'll lose the minion to be able to react to it. So there are these skills that you develop over time, and it's important to you realize that the tempo you play at Brawl can actually be applied to these minor systems at higher elos, and that's how you're supposed to approach the game to be part of the best. So again, it's another example of a teachable moment that you learn, is how you're supposed to actually see the game. And I started noticing that when I got to about Emerald 1, where when you start queuing against Masters and Diamond players, even if they were washed or whatever, it's like they even if it's a losing play, the tempo that they play at is just much quicker. And it is, I believe, by design that it is a core necessity or capacity to just be mechanically capable of maintaining that amount of tempo for that duration of a game. And then you get used to it, right? The more hours you play, and it won't be that hard, but it's just to look for the trade always and whatnot. So to get back to the Bent Beyond Repair video, because he had stated here, we can probably get to his conclusion.
The tutorial, we basically briefly mentioned, they really need to rework the tutorial for new players so it actually teaches them the game. There needs to be a tutorial on jungle, things like that. But obviously, there's a lot that they could do to fix the game, even that's not mentioned here. But obviously, with such big player base declines, they need to do something, and they need to do something swiftly. With that being said, good luck in solo queue and have a wonderful day.
How do we fix rank? And if you listen to his entire video, and I'll try to save you guys the time, but what he comes up with is basically this you have a perception of unbalanced matchmaking because there's an autofill on your team. So it makes you want to quit the game because you think that the matchmaking isn't balanced. So that reduces the amount of players that they can actually put into queues to be able to make fair teams. So it actually increases the amount of autofills, which makes more people quit, which makes them more. So see, it's a self-fulfilling or prophecy or vicious circle. And the idea here is, how do we stop that? So autofill is a problem. How can we tend to that? He suggests one idea that says buff mid and ADC in top instead of nerfing jungle. And that was just like an aside note on his video. And I just wanted to explain this little concept very briefly, but let's say that this is just the amount of percentage that players select a role at. So supports and jungle were typically in the past the least favorite roles. So 15% of the player base, and this is just the normal distribution curve, right? So most people queued mid. It was the most popular role where you had an impact. This was back in the day when there was only Drake and top was an island. So let's say that this was the actual curve. Well, the problem with that is that the actual amount of games that can go through are actually 15%. 15% of these players are going to wait so long because to get into a game, they need these two guys to line up, support and jungle. So if you can't autofill, this just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you just can almost never get into a game. So to deal with this, right? To deal with this, what Riot did is they made jungle and support more powerful, giving them agency. So you're not forced to play a tank who can just buy wards as a third item, who has gold per 5 items and it's not supposed to farm. Now you have gold, you have compelling items, you have things. They make it to the real player. And now people don't mind queuing support. People don't mind playing jungle because it's the role with the most agency. If you're trying to climb, the most amount of players that are challenger are from the jungle role because it's the role with the most agency. But what it ends up doing is that now a lot more games can go through because there's a lot less the percentile difference between the two. And what you can do with autofill is, I believe that they've done this, but like mid laners should know how to play top should know how to play jungle, and bot should know how to support, and ideally support can know how to bot. Because that way, like, because you know the lane and whatnot, so it's a natural way of just balancing it. And by having two roles, you can have a lot of games go through and reduce queue times while maintaining competitive integrity. So yeah, I think the jungle and support being strong because they have agency is by design, and that's not going anywhere. I think that needs to stay because otherwise we'll never get queue times. People are just going to play the role with the most agency, and if it happens to be mid, because mid could roam to either lane, well, then that just becomes the most popular role, and it'll be the most represented in Challenger, and the queue times will have exploded. So I think that the current iteration of how we have the power structure set up of unequal agency or power strength is the correct way to maintain the games and for longevity purposes. If your goal is to get to the highest rank possible, then by all means play support, play jungle. You'll have inflated your elo to an extent. To like same way OTPing will actually increase and buff your elo to an extent. Right? You can min-max everything, but your chances of being challenger are higher if you learn to like support correctly. So that was just his side note on why like you shouldn't be buffing mid top ADC or top items, because you can't, because autofill just explodes, which speaks to that original problem of just unbalanced matchmaking creates people leaving the game and whatnot. So to get back to what I was talking about now, it's chapter 4. So we're nearly there. We're getting there. So how can we actually fix ranked? Okay. So I have here a table, which I call Table 4.1, Players' Ability to Correctly Interact with System at Various ELOs. And we have a disclaimer here that I lack the knowledge to break down the skills further in high elo. Would love feedback. So I am not a challenger player. I cannot speak for them. And I would love to have team and feedback, but the channel is still growing. I don't have these comments. I can't take them into consideration. I am open-minded for everything. And this idea is fairly big and massive in its scope because I'm reworking the progression and basically ranked rewards that there used to be in the past. I'm reworking them. So ranked rewards used to give a skin if you got to gold 4. And Riot decided to walk away from it because they took issue with just saying to players, well, get good and then you'll get the skin. And people felt cheated, or it just didn't work with, maybe it's the messaging that Riot's trying to put out, but they walked it back and now everybody gets the skin. And it's just the chromas, I believe, that change. Depending on what elo you get the chromas for it. So how can we tweak this system to be better represented? And for me, when I talk to my Iron friends, so I've got one, or family members more or less, I've got one that just started playing the game, and I'll play with him in ARAM, and he's probably Iron 3, Iron 4. I've got my sister-in-law, who's probably Bronze 4, Bronze 3. I've got my wife, who's probably Silver 4 right now at the moment because she doesn't play enough, but she could get a lot higher if she wanted to, because once you get to Silver, you know quite a bit of systems. But you can ask all of them, and I have asked my past friends that used to be at different ranks, and what happens is all these systems that leagues have added. Okay, so here's the first one, just champion select. And this list is not exhaustive. Okay, I probably missed some. I would love to add to the list. My idea is to transition all of that I'm writing into a blog on my website. It's all going to be coming, and then here we can actually elaborate them so that we have a correct plan of action, the documentation required to be able to give it to the programmers so that they understand. It's a system design document that I'm trying to get, system design, SRS. Forget what that stands for in the moment. In any case, so but as an example, so champion select, you have who are you going to ban? Well, here, my Iron friend doesn't really care. My Silver friend, though, my wife, she actually does care, and she does not want to see Yasuo bot lane in Silver. She hates playing against it. So, that being said, bans become relevant. Well, not necessarily in Iron, but they do become relevant for Silver players. So that's where this is going, right? Silver has an X here, and this can be subject to change too. I'm not forced. You have to look at the idea, the concept of it, because there is a trade-off to this. But hear me out, and I believe that there's an advantage. So you have bans becoming valid for Silver, Gold, Platinum, Emerald, Diamond, and above. Basically, everybody gets to ban a champion, okay? But counter-picking, to actually go and to know, well, okay, let's look up who it counters Zed mid lane, to go on the websites and for it to tell you, oh, this guy, then to pick him. Well, that's actually something that, if you're first timing a champion, then you're counter picking them. There's no way that you can do this first picking a champion at your elo. You have to be. You should never be able to do that, honestly. It's just the first time it. It should be that you look at the list. There's maybe 10 who does well, and then you understand what's going on. So this is Emerald starts looking at these websites and these platforms and whatnot a lot more. So Emerald and up would actually start counterpicking, and that's where I put it actually. So that was my thought process with putting it there. Or actually, no, I put it up to Masters. Grandmasters and Challengers, I put it even higher to actually be able to pull off the counterpick, because you need to have the knowledge, the matchup knowledge to be able to play it at that. You could just, though, as simple as that, right? You put it next year, now counterpicking is also a diamond level thing. Like I said, I can't speak for them because I'm not of that player base. I've never been there. But pick order. So for me as an Emerald player, I started caring about, I've been maining MF. She's a great safe first pick. It allows my team to be able to um, pick a laner that they know. So for the people that are capable of counter picking, so let's say that this is it's less so that it's like counter picking, but more so that you know that you're gonna have a rough time if you play specific champ into that. So you'll play your alternative champ. Like myself, I feel like whenever I'm paired with a Lulu that locks in before I can, or she just absolutely wants the Lulu, Lulu does not pair very well with a misfortune. She's not attack speed based. But what you can do though is play something like Tristana and then pop off, because now you are attack speed based. You can do a lot of things. You can shred people, so it becomes relevant again. So this is where the counter picking makes sense. Like you can play around your support player. So there's some that happen, right? What I'm getting at though is that like in gold and silver and bronze, for the people that I talk to, like I'm not really mad that I don't get the counter pick. Like if we were just like using the brawling system, this is how I queue. I pick my champion or the swift play one. Just get in the game. I am really not mad about that. And I just can't play against in a lobby where I've been banned out. So if people all ban MF, well, I'll still be able to play my champion OTP. I just won't play against people that banned her, right? So that's, I think, very positive. So I would remove actually the ability to counter pick and to pick order. So what I'm suggesting is that you remove champ select for Anilo, which is actually, it's diamond. Diamond gets champ select, the legacy version of it, with all its bells and whistles that we currently have. Other than that, anything below doesn't really care for the system. Like there's some incidents of it, but yeah. So bans, you can say this if you want it, but you'll see why I don't. You see why I say it's a silver problem later on. Rune pages, and here I can just talk about this one first, which was the armor change that they did rather than those flat health. Freak had spoken to them and saying that, well, there's so many situations that there's like 5 magic based champs on the enemy team, and people will just pick the armor runes because that's recommended. And here what I'm getting at is that this should be automated. Riot could have just changed like, hey, there's 60% magic and there's 40% AD. You should get magic runes here. It doesn't need to be the flat health equivalent. Because here you are stifling player creativity and choice that challenger players and masters players will actually consider and they will greed for. And you're removing that choice for the masses, for the 80%. Like this is the percentage of player base. So see, anything gold is like 80% of players. So that one change I'm getting at is that you can automate this so that it was always balanced while giving the higher player base what they want, the choice, a compelling choice. So the ability to go on coachlist.gg and probuilds.net or practice tool practicing to ascertain whether or not a rune is optimal or not. Like that's something that I started doing a little bit myself in Emerald, but I even put this is Diamond Masters and Grandmasters and Challenger. Like this is where people actually go to those websites. They'll pay for a subscription service, which is coachlist.gg, and they'll try to know like. But even like with those statistics and those analytics, you have to understand what's going on. And when you truly understand your champion, you can see why a rune is broken on one but not on the other. So, because I used the free one, I'm just going to check real quick to see what it is called. It is just pros.lol. And if you go that, you can go pro builds. And so that's to see pro players. And then you can go to lolanalytics.com. And then here you can just pick your champion and see how it interacts and the win rates with different items. But to be able to understand the statistics and why things work, like you need to see that how they can be skewed. You really need to be able to appreciate the game and the statistics to be able to understand those kind of details, and that's not something that a casual player wants to do. I'm thinking that not even a plat player wants to do. Some diamond or emerald players are going to start doing that because they actually care. Like that's the correct way to do it. Some people just might look at whatever videos online of their favorite streamer, right? And that's where they get their information. But whatever pop-off videos that they have aren't necessarily the way you're meant to play the game, right? So here I say that the rune pages should actually be automated for wood. And I'll say that I'm adding a wood tier to this. Iron, bronze, silver, gold. Yeah, runes recommended all the time. Platinum also. I feel like in Emerald, you can let it go. You don't need, you can customize your own rules, and that's what you get for being Emerald 4. But one of the cool advantages of this, like of what I'm getting at, there's a lot more to be done, is that it makes it so that it evens out snowballers, right? That's snowballing has always been a problem in League in low elo. Now, if you looked at the Ben Beyond Repair videos, he said that a lot of accounts are being banned that are bot leveled up, and these would be bought by Smurfs, and the Smurfs would snowball games. So that's they're trying. The league has done so many changes to the game, like that whole part about making Garen viable in Challenger by making every champion 50%. Is that if we do that, well, it becomes extremely hard to Smurf because all champions are made equal. But again, that happens to happen at the cost of a player base who just doesn't want Challenger Garen to exist. Those Challenger players that have spent the time and to be able to get to it. So I want to keep them happy. And I believe that you should be rewarded for your mechanics and your ability to do all these cool things on the screen and multitask at the same time. At least that's my view. Don't stifle player creativity. So we can use item sets. This is the next point. Use recommended items all the time. This is just another example of you could have it in wood, iron, bronze, silver, and gold. How often does it happen that players just leave base without buying an item? In bronze, iron, wood, it happen all the time. This is an issue, and you know what? Silver and gold, they have the system where you can make your item sets in the client right now. And actually, I saw this recently from the Freak video. They actually have just the system to be able to override the recommended items. The recommended item sets in the game that you get shown pop up, they have a way to just be able to show, well, here's what's most popular everybody using, but they have a file on your computer which tells you this is what you should build, so that they can make somebody like Rengar go Voltaic Cycle Sword as their first item, because that's what's meant to be OP and broken on them. Though I designed this champion, I want you guys to build this on him. This is how we saw him, and this is what we're going to be balancing him on. But like for Garen with the current rework, and that's where I got this whole thing, is they need to be able to support Crate Garen and they need to support Juggernaut Garen. And the beauty of this is, in this kind of thing, if you automate items, like in wood and iron and bronze, you shouldn't be able to go Crit Garen necessarily. Because it is not these gambits are not what you queue up for at that elo. You see a big guy coming at you with a sword, your first thought should be run away, but he should be pretty tanky. Like you make it so that's the build that you can do on them, and then you counter them by building against that. You make the fantasy match what Riot is trying to do. Like you basically support one build. And the recommended items is what you can force. If you automate the shops and whatnot, it removes some creativity or some ability to be able to buy the correct item or anti-heal and whatnot. But you can balance the game at lower elos just by using recommended items. So even if it's less optimal, so here I'm talking for wood and iron tier. Like it's just for those two. And then you can have the correct item sets for like bronze, silver, and gold and whatnot. But you have the flexibility to balance win rates there. But what I'm getting at is you just want the automatic to happen. So people leaving the fountain without buying an item, it should just be automated. You should be able to choose like your starting items or your item sets, your build path, just what you chose in your runes, right? So this will be later on when you get to here I put it at, if you're going to build item sets, I put it in gold. So here I put a transition. So it's most likely that this would happen like in platinum. And you'll see the final chart that I have at the end. But in platinum, you should be able to have item sets selected at the champ select. So in this case, it'd be you choose your champion, you choose your runes, but you also choose your item sets that you want the shop to be populated with. So you have your own recommended set, because that would allow you to know like this is what I want to see, and this is how I want the system to buy my items. I want to go create Garen. Well, and what it is we don't want to support that gambit for wood, iron, and bronze, but maybe silver and gold you do, right? Wherever you choose that gambit should exist, I'm saying that it shouldn't be in Iron. And actually, I think that people in Gold don't want to see a Crate Garen running at them, because Crate Garen is a way to smurf and to pop off. But once you hit Plat and you release and you start seeing all these new things, the things that you've never, like, it adds a whole new layer in complexity, and it saves it from 80% of the player base doesn't need to see this toxic way of playing the game. And toxic is just a means of like I see it as a wonderful advantage to the game. Like, it adds layers and creativity and whatever, but the general populace doesn't want to interact with that. So you can save 80% of the community from these gambits that they don't want to interact with, and leave it for the people that do want to interact it. And that's the whole point with this entire graphs. Like, we can keep going over systems and systems and systems, and just saying, what do we want to interact with, what do we not want to support at different elos. And guess what? It used to be that we were taught these gambits one at a time, right? The funnel Tarek thing in Yi, well, we taught that for a patch or 2 or 3. And then you come up and you understand it. But for a new player to be faced with all these gambits, how are they supposed to know what's the optimal play? How do you counter that? Because there's going to be constant negative reinforcement when they do something incorrect, but they get a positive outcome. It's teaching them to do the wrong thing. But how are they meant to know how to go about it? They're not, right? They can't. So this whole way of just removing these elements and giving them a little bit by little bit. So learn this system at this elo, learn this system at this elo, learn this system. And also gives you an ability that when you're climbing, not only does your icon change, but you actually have accesses to more choice and more complexity. So you break down these complexities into those layers. And again, I'm repeating myself and just keep going with what I have. So time available to commit to the game. So that was just the gambits. None, some basic ones all. So I have some basic ones in gold, I think, to gold plat. So here I've seen like a Rengar bot should maybe be a plat thing. Maybe it should be a gold thing. I recently played it one in gold, and it inflates you by an elo. I think it should be like platinum for that gambit, but that's a choice, and it can all be defined as where we see these are the gambits we want to track and we want to support. These are some new strats that are coming and we need to support in the past. Like, all this is a list, and I'd love for this blog to be able to write them down, but again, I need your participation to be able to get there. And then like well, that's tolerated as of diamond. You hit diamond, you're a high elo, you now see everything. To get to master is actually going to be a lot harder for new players now, because they learned some systems, but now like the difference between here and here, like the all gambits compared to some basic ones, like you can be doing some crazy stupid things in a low diamond and it'll be work out. You'll be smurfing, but that's where the smurfs go, right? If you're challenging your smurfing in diamond, that's okay. Like, there is a huge discrepancy between Diamond 4 right now and Masters player, and that's what this allows to deal with. But also, like I said, like just making it so that the next one, leveling system. So who uses mouse click to level? I'm saying it's all the way to silver players. They still use mouse click. You could argue that, you could argue this X that people all use Control Q, but the next level up is actually, once you're in gold, you'll actually use it during combat some of the time. But it used to be that even higher level skill players, it used to be that skills would cost less mana and level. And as you levels, I'm not sure if that's still the case. Let's just go look at Misfortune. Pretty sure that they've basically changed that, how that works. Mana cost per spell. So her mana costs are 43, 46, 49, 52. See, so no. It goes up 3 mana. 45 at all cost for her W. Her E is 80 at all costs, and her R is 100 at all costs. Okay, but see, so the Q, it goes up by 3 mana. And when mana was a problem in the game and you had to manage it, there was mana pots and whatnot, what people would do, so like on the Misfortune Q, you would Q, even though you had your level up accessible, you would wait for a Q that you would know would bounce or you know would hit. You would cast it, and you would pay 43 mana, the level 1 cost. You would level it while it's in transition, like it's going to hit. And in that period, when a ball actually hits, it goes based off what your skill level at. But it's on hit, so you have time to level up during the ball flying, the bullet. And then you get to have spent less mana for the same amount of damage. So this was something that back in the day you had to challenger players would play. So like a mechanic that you're optimizing how you use your mana. Like that's not just during combat. You're actively leveling up at a specific time during combat to be able to save because you're that aware of the system. So, but yeah, leveling systems, it's not something compelling to be able to go click here and to go there, and people aren't aware that you can self-cast skills, right, and whatnot. So yeah, give them automatic level ups. If you're going to silver, you get automatic level ups. Once you hit gold, now you can learn to level up yourself. That's where I'm getting at with this. And maybe, like I said, testing required. Let's get feedback from players who want this because we're gonna get a monumental shift. Okay, but maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. I feel like the way I put it there because this is an evolving idea. But as we get more systems and more feedback, we can tailor these around. But there has to be a progression that is done. Whereas when you move up in rank, you access more creativity. You have now more agency and more things to learn, and you have a specific thing to learn at that rank. You already know the champions, you know yada yada, and now you focus on this because there's some, and it could be super simple, right? It could just be that you look at the page to get optimal runes, but that's not the case. Like if you actually do the research, you go on coaches.gg, the recommended page and what Riot tells you is the best page are often not optimal because you need to consider everything that's going on to be able to pick the right page. And even coaches.gg and whatever, like this, it's a statistic driven. But if you understand why it's that way, you also need to mimic the playstyle that makes it broken. Because if you play safe and these are aggro runes, well, it's because you're meant to play the champion aggressively, and your win rate is increased if you play it aggressively. So otherwise, you need to play for. Anyway, it's just considerations. But that level of play is for beyond. When you actually care about the game, you've invested those thousands of hours in. And then you play that way, and you go to those resources. So that was gambits, or item sets. We did gambits. It's just this one thing. It doesn't necessarily fit in this table, but time available to commit to the game. 2, 4, 8, 20, 40 hours a week. Like, there are challenger players that'll play 40-hour weeks because they stream all day, right? Myself, I didn't realize, but I just looked at the Diamond account of the one guy who said he liked how I played when I was Emerald 1, and he invited me. Now he got to Masters, and he's playing about 8 hours a day. 4 to 8 hours a day. Like, that's where he's at. And it's like, well, you don't realize it, but to be at that elo, to be playing that amount of, against those players, like, you're in the top 3% at that point, which is like Diamond 4, and you realize that the top 3% of players actually play the game like quite a bit, or they have in the past done stints where they've played. Like when I got to Emerald 1, I was playing for 3 weeks I took, and I started from gold 1, my placement matches, after my placement matches, and I got all the way to Emerald 1, and I played for 3 weeks, about 8 hours a day, so that was 120 hours that I put in to be able to get. And you do that grind, but then it comes out you've got responsibilities and whatnot to be able to maintain it. But it's just to say, like, the amount of time, of compelling time, and it's actually like it has to have intent. This was another video I saw recently. You need to have intent. You need to have the time to be putting into for the grind. And there was a third one that I've already forget. Oh, he'd be so mad at me. But regardless, it's just to say that the amount of time you actually have to put the game, your commitment is different. If you're just coming back from work and you just want to play a quick one, and Swift plays where it's at, and you won't even have 2 hours to commit to ranked, right? You won't even skill because you're not necessarily, you still want to interact with League, but you'll interact it via Swift play, or better yet, I think Brawl might be a good candidate. So that was time available, leveling system we've gone over. Champion knowledge, this is just an example of like some popular champion general abilities, different ranks, you know them. And I think that this is a core one that should always remain. Like but it is important that when we learned the game, there were 40 champions. Now there's 160. It is too much to ask for everybody to get everywhere all at once. It is too much, it's too heavy. So I take that and I break it down so that wood tier, when you're playing against AI, you only have access to those 450 RP champions, the original ones, and the free rotation, like the game used to be, so that you're not forced to learn and to see overwhelmed by all these new abilities and whatnot. It's just, no, it's a sandbox mode. In wood tier, you're playing against co-op versus AI is what I'm getting at. It's just to move the tier that game mode to like ranked. And once you've beaten it, you can become iron, bronze, or silver. I would think iron. But it's a way to be able to level an account to 30 for a normal player to queue up with friends. And it's just you're playing ranked now. You're no longer going co-op versus AI, but it is. You just do some UI changes and you communicate it. But basically, you're in wood tier, and it just do it at the end screen. They'll be in wood tier ranked. So that was the beginning of that. Some popular champions general abilities. So yeah, remove champions, and then I put it in silver right now, but we'll get to that. That's the next table. So most champion general abilities, you'll start knowing that. Like I was saying, starting to gold, you start knowing them. Your own champ knowledge, though, if you're in Emerald, you really need to understand how to min max your champion. Like you really need to understand because you're as an ADC myself, I needed to learn how to auto attack correctly to cancel your auto and whatnot. To be able to Q auto Q, like that's the main combo. You've got them down pat by then, because if you don't, well, people at that elo do. So you're going to be overwhelmed and you'll never make it to that elo. So it's part of like the knowledge you need to survive. And that's just something that gets more and more and more skilled, right, as you keep going. And again, I can't talk to a challenger because I'm not necessarily that elo. There are so many more of these systems that can be identified, and I want to be told what their thoughts and what these systems are, because by adding them, we can figure out, well, how should we actually make, like, which systems belong that you want to interact with. But right now, okay, I'm thinking there's not that many that the 80% want to interact with. It's mostly all bloat. Some popular champion general abilities, so that was that. A move. So that's just an example like of a system that not bound all the way to gold. Some gold players might. They're learning it. Platinum. And emerald, you learn. By diamond, it's a standard that you need to be able to know how to A move all the time. But orb walking, stutter stepping demon. That's like reserved for grandmaster and challenger players are able to do that, because it's a skill that like the metronome that you need to be able to hit. It is very, very, it's a skill, and it needs to be tailored. Summoner spell tracking. So that's just another example. So they're not tracked. So guess what? We could actually, there's tools that do it, right? They have blitz that are trying to do it. If you ping it, you know exactly when they're going to come up. League could support it, but it has a problem like in Path of Exile. That's another game. So it's I think it's called a MOBA, massive multiplayer. Anyway, it's like a Diablo game for those Blizzard folk. But what you do is you grind items, and they had a problem where flasks you had to add buttons. But then they added a currency which allows you to make your flasks basically be automated, which are like instilling orbs. And but what they do is they made it so that originally this was being done by a script. There were tools out there that existed that allowed you to do that. And where people that are in the higher brackets will shy away and say, no, I've learned the skill of tracking my potions. I don't want it to be automated because I want to have an advantage because I've learned to do that. So they'll be against it. But guess what? Summoner spell tracking all the way to gold? Yeah, just give it to them. You can know, because they won't know to do that much with information. Okay, my Tristana doesn't have flash in a fight. We're still going to go fight a dragon for no reason, or just do a fall in mid ARAM. Like, there's no cohesion really, team play going on, so it doesn't matter. But it can actually show you that you're meant to track this, and when you get the plat, well, now you can't track it anymore because you're meant to follow that up. And Blitz should never be able to, like, it should be removed from that as a setting. But that's a design choice and whatnot. They have to decide, like in the case of warding in League, they made it so that now when you ping a ward or an ally pings a ward, it leaves that little marker or icon so that you know. And that was a very appreciated change, because you could, even yourself, you would ping it and then you would forget, but at least like you've mapped it and now you know. Like, it's so cool that they've done that. They've decided to say, no, that's okay for all ranks. So you need to do the questionnaire with different ranks to know if, you know what, we want some spell tracking to just be done completely. Another thing like that could be done is just having enemy champion health bars being able to be shown at the HUD on your screen. Because it'd be so much easier for Karthus to know, oh, somebody's low. Like, I look at my screen, somebody's low, I can press R. now that might increase his win rate because there's a lot more opportunities. And would I be mad? I'd be less so. Like I think that one has game breaking potential, but champions can be balanced around it. But I believe that it could be viable to be put in the game. I'm sure they've tested it and come up to the conclusion whether or not they want it or not. So, summoner spell tracking is where I was going. Actually, consider timing in fights and impacts. So, smite as jungler will you won't use your smite because you know your dragon's coming up and you want smite there, or you'll die instead of flashing as a laner because you know there's nothing to fight for. You could have saved yourself, but it's not. There's nothing to be contested, and you can have your flash, and they've just wasted theirs at the next fight. So that's more like a skill that you learn in the higher elos. You'll actually be aware of that. So for us, just track it, and for higher elos, we'll track it ourselves. So for Blitz tool, that was so. Um, Reserves their summoners for next dragon fight, pros and cons. Yeah. So anyway, let's just talk about that. It's just another example of a system that, like, what I'm getting at is basically you can all get gold and you don't track it. They don't want to interact with it. It doesn't matter. So you can just give it to them to show them that they should follow this. Like, it's a skill you are meant to learn. Ability tracking. That's another one similar to spells, but not tracked doesn't matter. Most people. Like in the laning phase, silver and gold, like a Blitzcrank hook, right? That's one that you'll follow and you'll know that you'll have about a 15-second window where you can go in and you can punch, that you can trade. So you know that when their key skill is down, you can actually engage on them. And then like I fear like the blitz that I fear the most is the one that never uses his Q, right? Because that's the one with the most power or potential for kill pressure. Anyway, so some are considered during the entire game. Once you start actually like the blitz hook, you keep following it. Well, now you're more like a plat and emerald player. That's done. Has so ability tracking. So then you'll start tracking for the entire game. Turret shots trading, that's just another ability tracking. You'll actually track turret abilities or like execute timers, which is about 15 seconds without taking any damage for you to. I really think that like that's an example of an icon that should be known. You should have an icon that knows whether or not you can execute yourself. It should be green, red, and then you can time it. I feel uncompelled by a 15-second, which is not like 10, which you think would be enough. You see it more often in ARAMs where you think you can execute under turret and you just can't, and it's like, really? Like, was it not reset because I got hit by a minion randomly and and he got the assist for that? Whoops! Like, it'd be so much better for it to. I want an execute icon just to know. It's just a little thing. Green, I can execute. Red, you can't. A turret shot, last hitting. So what I'm getting at with that is when you're last hitting under turret, you learn that. To auto turret hits auto, or it's the melee creep is 2 turret shots, and then auto typically gets you the minion gold in ranked solo queue. But what I think is important is now when you're under turret, when their turret is actually firing your minions, you have a window where you can hit them and walk out of range, and you won't get turret aggro. So that's just another concept that starts being applicable in like Emerald and above. Well, and this is just by my experience. That's where I learned it. To not Platinum, I was just thinking about it last hitting under turret, right? Gold and Platinum, I was thinking that. But no, how to poke champions under their turret is the same logic with those turret shots being hit. And somebody made me clue into that, and I was like, wow, yes, that's something that I have to look out for. I've already practiced this in Gold and Platinum, and it's just I can apply this here. Has Climber reached Silver on 3 rolls? So Gold, Plat, Diamond, Masters, whatever. And it's just to show that like a Challenger player, like if you think Tyler won, he was Challenger on all 5 rolls, right? He can do it. You can do the climb. But you can, if for people to have done it, just speaks to how much time you have to sink in the game to be able to do it. But you're basically off by 2 levels is what I'm saying. To be able to do it on 3 roll, like if I'm an Emerald ADC, I can play support no problem at Emerald. But to play any other role, I think I'm actually Gold. Like I'm a Gold top laner for sure. Like I was able to get to Gold 1 back in the day, and that was when I was less polished than what I am right now. So I'm probably Plat, but like I'm a Plat 4. Like I'm a very low elo on my 3rd role compared to my, like I'm almost 2 divisions, Emerald 1 to Plat 4. So there is a big discrepancy. So the ability to do that comes with just playing amount of games. But what it allows you to do is if you're a diamond player, okay, it's because you know the game a lot better. You have the perspective of a mid laner because you've done it. You have the perspective of a jungler and you have the perspective of a top laner. So your understanding in general of what you're meant to do and how you can support your team is so much more than just having done it once. And right now, I'm living the climb from Emerald perspective, having done it in one role, and I know that by doing it with a second role, I'll be able to know, well, okay, this is this is what I'm meant to do. Like I just got flamed recently in a game, for playing correctly as per what I'm reading in my research. And the funny thing is they were two assassins ganging up on me, and they were saying I wasn't joining. But guess what? You guys have your kits, and you are meant to pop off as assassins early. I'm an ADC that's meant to scale as MF. I'm not supposed to go all in to be able to meet. So give me gold, and I will pop off. We won the game handedly. Like it's, and he said, "Oh, no problem at the end." And they fight me the entire time, but it's like, yes, you have your player you're meant to play it a specific way. I have my player I'm meant to play it a specific way, and you get that perspective. Like it's more like diamond and above, like you because you've done it over 3 roles. You've gotten bored of your own role or not climbing, and you've had to go try to see like understand the game from a different perspective. At least that's my thoughts of how you would go about it. So, like I said, there are so many more systems here that can be developed and spoken to. The fundamentals, and then we get to choose like which ones should be automated, which ones are considered bloat, and we go from there. And that's the table that's coming up. So, an example of this: what is most important here is to define the systems and if it should be automated. I.e., script for orb walking at gold elo for everyone would be problematic. And those that you want to follow while I'm reading. But by automating these systems for low elos, you should be leveling the playing field for Smurfs because they can't get an advantage from orb walking against you anymore because you can do the same, right? So you would have to have a like if the WA is the movement. Anyway, I will dominate. Just put an interesting take on that. That it won't necessarily come to solo queue, and if it does, it's problematic. So it's very interesting. But basically, if you want to remove smurfing, well, everything that they can do in all these system abuses, just remove their ability to be able to abuse them. Because people actually don't want to interact with them that much. Just level the playing field that way. Because people in the higher elos want to be able to level up and manage their mana. But people in lower elos didn't even know that it was a thing and that could be done. Right? So by segregating them, in order to account for gambits and player desires, players in different elos play the game for different reasons. Think of a ranked journey as an extended tutorial. Apply proactively. So this is the new tutorial is what I was getting at. Ben Beyond Repair in that recent video mentioned like how do you do the tutorial that's broken. And I agree that the Ash thing is not long enough. Like it lacks. But by making the AI thing in a wood tier ranked becoming a tutorial in itself, the learning system, and then the iron journey here, what I'm getting at is I'm limiting champions to only the ones that have, and hear me out, the cheapest ones, the original 40 that whatever were available for League. That's what made us fall in love with League. So know that you can get a lot more complexity if you want that. You can grind and you can get to it. And you'll learn as a player base. But for now, you only need to learn these champions and these abilities. So it's not too much because there are other things happening and you need to learn those. So for the wood tier, you could automate level, wards, jungle pings. So if you have a jungler on your team, which you should now, I think, with the recent changes, AIs would have a jungle too, right? And whenever he shows up and you could see him, it could just ping junglers here. Because when you get to higher elo, and that's something I try to do, whenever I look at the minimap and I see the jungler, and right now I'm using vision just so that people can see. But like you ping the map and you show them jungler's here. If he's topside, you know that mid can push. Like you have vision on him. So you have this jungle ping in higher elo that's happening behind your ears. Thabaus in one of his videos talked to how Nemesis is constantly behind him telling him, oh, you're about to get ganked. You should walk away, buddy. And then it just gives him an advantage that he's no longer feeding an inting because he can focus solely on the 1v1 and rely on his teammates to carry that part of the game of looking at the minimap for him. So it's you have that in the game at different elos, at different strengths. So jungle pings should just happen. And I said maybe you stop it in bronze because after that you still want silver players and whatnot to have the agency and to get ganked and whatnot. But they should know that it just happens. There'll be a transition. All champs should be made available once you reach silver. Once you reach silver, you've made it. I'm thinking you get a voucher for any skin for free. So it's a one time per account. And I'm okay with grandfathering this so that even the accounts that are existence right now would get one time, one free skin voucher for playing the game and say thank you. And you get to ban a champion now solely because all champions are unlocked. In bronze, I added the 1350 ones that could be purchased just to make the pool slightly bigger because the goal is, I'm thinking in low elo, you want to learn all the champions and just fight. Like that's what's cool and that's what you want to focus on learning game. Wave management, whatnot, stuff like that. It's stuff that you can learn if you want to move ahead and get better, but you're not forced and compelled to do that right away. Like you can just learn the champs, get accustomed to it, but leveling is automatically the wards after you ping it, they're shown. You can shop your items, they're actually automated for you. You don't have to buy them yourself. They just are chosen. You have your runes that are automated. You have champ select, which is just the original one. You select your champion, you say who you don't want to ban, and then that's it. So it's like the swift play and the brawl one. This is true for iron. This is true for bronze. This is true for like the champ select one is true all the way. Even emerald, I'm saying it should be that way. Diamond, you unlock the legacy, says welcome to league. You're starting to get to high elo. In master tier, you get voice chat. Now this is something that I've heard across multiple elos and you could. But in Masters players and Grant, I think it's a great time for Masters players to learn from Challenger players on how to get better at the game and whatnot, and to understand it's a free coaching session within the community. And I saw some Korean. There was a faker had I believe had spoken to a child, but it said that there's like 9-year-olds that are Masters Elo in Korea. So to become a pro is actually very hard to do. Like you need to get very high very early to have a prospect chance of getting there. That's a different take, and there are ways around that. But regardless, once you hit Masters, you should be getting voice chat. That's where it becomes relevant. Otherwise, we have Discord. I had a very compelling moment that I got a Discord link, I clicked it, and now I have a great friend that lives in the States, and we only play League together, so we could be colleagues when it comes to that. But I really like the guy. I'm very happy to have met him, and Riot made that connection happen. And it was by clicking a Discord link. So we still have access to it. It's just no one, like I played all day, or I played a few hours today, and nobody joined my Discord server. But these guys did. They would have access and they would be compelled to play, and it would make it so much more interesting. I Will Dominated had suggested that it's lonely at the top in a recent video when he was reminiscing, and that's what I'm getting at. That it gives you a win con. It teaches people teachable moments. Like this is where this should really become relevant. Diamond players will have enough to learn with just this champion select and all the strat that comes with that, and the drafting and whatnot, and the complete gambit onslaught. Like here, there's not even gambits that I've spoken about, right? But like lane swaps should not be viable. Well, actually, the way Riot did it, they said it's not even true in Challenger, right? It's not even in pro play, so that's the one that they just banned from the game. I'm of the opinion that that's the wrong take, but so they'll be overwhelmed already with like just what's happening, and maybe they won't be, right? There is a little bit problem right now that like when the highest you can start an account right now when you do your placement matches after a season is Emerald 1. So that being said, you might have to add Champ Select to Emerald just for that reason, just so that even if you're Emerald, like you, but it could be fun that they get a taste of it. I'm not sure. Feedback, you won't be able to please everybody with this game design like this, okay? But what I'm getting at is most people do not want to interact with these systems because it's tedious, and people don't play League and low elos for tediousness. They just want to click their buttons and see things light up. That's typically. And there's other, like if they want to make something tedious, they'll play a different game. Like that's a different fantasy, and they'll spend time there, and they'll spend 2 hours there, and they'll spend 2 hours here, and again whatnot. So what I'm getting at, There is a correct way to do this. We could shop around the idea, get comments, get feedback, and then improvement, test it. But I think that this is how you go about fixing just rank in general. It's by segregating these to match like what the people want to do at that elo, that the tediousness, the rigor just gets removed from them and is increased the higher rank you go. By making the recommended items be forced upon you, I think it opens a window for like wood and iron that you can actually balance so that you never see crit Garen exist in gold and below. So again, for the smurfing, you won't see it. You'll see smurfs and platinum starting to show up, and that'll be a learning curve. But guess what? Like I said, with the 3 role thing, you can probably, if you're a Masters player, you can probably play Emerald any role, and you can get by with it. Because your tempo is so quick, it is so fast, and you know so much about the game that the skill level discrepancy is so high that you can just do it. And it's healthy for you to play with higher elo players because it teaches you like how far you can get, how much more you can get. So like I welcome these games, and you should have someone on your team as often as somebody that when it's on the NNB team. So I I'm not addressing everything right now, and this idea is an idea, and just how you could actually go by addressing the problem with ranked. I love to hear your thoughts. So just go quickly. Some improvement. Pick items to load on start. So yeah, item sets I think should be chosen like your runes. Like you should be able to pick a page. This is whenever you have champ select up, you should be able to just pick it because I know if I'm going to go lethality MF or if I'm going to go crit MF depending on who they picked. And honestly, it's a decision that I have the foresight right now to focus on. Like I'm deciding these runes, I'm deciding this, and this are the items that I want to go. I could build the page for my runes and set it up because I know it's going to be one of the two, and I can amend them if need be. But then I have that, and just give me my item sets. I've already built the item sets in the past. Just let me select it at that place. I feel like it's just a nice quality of life for the current champ select. Add chat to discuss strategies during loading screen. Sometimes loading screen is like 10 seconds though, and sometimes it's like 3 minutes. And I'm like, because there are some things you can learn. People that use apps like blitz.gg, it removes a lot of and it skews so many things like Professor and whatnot. It's interesting. I'm not against all of it. But what I was getting at, just the idea was that in Path of Exile, what they ended up doing is those scripts that were popular and the systems that they inputted, they just added it to the game directly. And some people complained that it removed the skill expression, the skill cap for quality of life. And it's a trade-off that you need to balance, and then you need to weigh whether or not it'll be worth it or not. So, okay, pros. Players in low elo want less choice, less bloat. They want automation. Skills level up automatically. Shop should auto-purchase. Support upgrades should be selected automatically. Trick and purchase, etc. Easier for new players to pick up the game because it doesn't interact with most of the bloat. Balancing the elo is done by changing a recommended path. Less cheese strategies in low elo. Smurf would have to at least play something standard in lower elo. No Rengar and Ivern unlocks plat 4. That's just an idea of a gambit. If you are Masters players in P4, you can easily win 90% win rate. You still have access to that Snowball Fantasy and the Smurf Fantasy. Offers a compelling reason to climb, unlock champs, game evolves. More flexibility. Removes the need to level up an account to 30 in regular games. Because now you don't need to play Swift Play. You can actually start playing ranked. You'll start in wood tier and you can start ranking up. And Iron 4 players, it might be very hard, but you can remain in wood tier. Now, I feel like an interesting idea, if you can 1v5 intermediate bots, you're automatically silver 4 MMR. And what I get by that is I can play somebody like Nasus, and this I could do when I was gold, and I could do it when I was silver actually, because you understand. But if I played Nasus, I could just play against 1v5 versus in custom game mode, and I would get to be able to win the game. And this is just a test. It's a skill check that if you can do that, then automatically you can save the time of being placed wood, iron, bronze. You can automatically be placed in silver. There might be guys that just come up with how easily it is to do, and maybe people would try to cheat the system. But guess what? They could be demoted back to bronze. Like they've passed it, but obviously they've messed up something because they just followed a guide. Because there clearly are champions that it's easy to do on than others. But yeah, so I think that that was just an interesting skill check, because if you can do that, then you can have unlocked all champions and skip this grind, because it is quite a bit of a grind. Those that don't want the shortcut and they want to like start from the bottom and now we're here, well, they can do it their way. Just keep playing in iron and you'll go through and then you'll get to this point. It's okay. Like, you don't need to rush. It's always there. You can take this test, and when you take the test, the beauty of it is that it's against bots. So it's not like if you're tying people, you don't have to feel shy or bad about like your gameplay or whatever. You're not affecting anybody else. If you can do this, you are this. So I think that that's just a cool way of helping or mitigating. Like, you, I think it's an interesting idea. Gives an advantage to players at a higher rank, which could help them not to demote. Sorry, Emerald 4 to go against Plat 1, Plat 4 to go against Gold 1, right? There'd be a discrepancy between I have to, like, you have your auto level, but I get to choose my runes, right? So there could be an opportunity of making people like, instead of having a demotion shield, like if you're given a more flexibility, more agency on your role because you have access to these systems, well, that should itself act as a way of not demoting, and it could prevent that elo problem of like how you're just inflating your elo over time because all these losses and all these systems that exist. So it's an interesting take on that. Bring back the game complexity to the level that we learned it so that noobs still have a chance. Grandfathered accounts should be at minimum placed B4. This is a so I had a friend recently who just joined the game and he started playing again. He used to be diamond, and the game, he won his 5 placement match and the game put him iron 1. And it's just like, why? At a minimum, I think he was silver gold 4. Like, honestly, I think he could play that elo and or a few games and then he's back. He ended up not playing because, again, he has to grind. I feel like this test is something that he might have opted into. And if he wants the fantasy of starting, hey, from the low and I'm here, like, anyway, it just speaks to that. Protects 80% of the player base from gambits. That's just like, gambits are just another systems that we can support or not. Again, with recommended item shop, like, automated items is all the way to gold. So you can make it so that you listen to our builds that are forbidden builds. They're not there. Forbidden builds are unlocked once you're plat. And when you get to plat, it can be a learning curve and you can start meeting that. But guess what? So this is the reality. This is where people cook. And now you're playing against people that want to cook. And it's just not like learn the game. Like, you've graduated, right? So people are going to feel the game like it's stale at the elo. Create wood tier that I spoke about. Cons. Player creativity is stifled by design. To get back to my original commandment, I feel bad because I am. Now, my brother compared it to Slay the Spire, which, like, you have to beat the game multiple times to be able to get access to these new cards, and they just want to say, well, why are you doing that? Just give me access to all cards and let me cook. He doesn't like that fantasy. But it's not really what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is say, no, there's always more. It's not more cards that exist, okay? You're not interested in interacting with these mechanics. These are layers of things that you can't customize. And I'm not asking you to beat the game over and over and over. I'm trying to get you to refine your skills at doing the one thing that's important, and then to elevate your gameplay to have more flexibility over time. Because it's just avoiding systems and so anyway, I don't think it stifles player creativity if people don't want to opt into the creativity. It's somewhat of a half-ass argument, though. I'd like to be pressed on this a little more to have feedback, but again, like, this is a small channel, so I don't have any right now. But this worries me. Hextech chests could provide rewards that you can't use because, like, I'm saying that 1350 champs, that's a bronze thing, and in iron, like, you're sorry, yeah, bronze, iron, and wood, I'm limiting the champion pool, so now you could be getting boxes that you can't use. Maybe you would have to do some tweaking to this system just so that they actually get something compelling every time. League has implemented so many systems in the game in order to keep it fresh. So yeah, that I've gone over, and then yeah, that I've gone over. So yeah, I'd like a player perception or sentiment chart to be able to talk and debate these ideas of how my ranked system could look like. Riot, if you're watching, I'm still job hunting.